How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, the Cowboys mandatory minicamp wraps up today, but not us. The Cowboys Squad Show continues, and we are brought to you this morning by FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, here we go. Great to be with you. Final day of mandatory minicamp for the Cowboys. That is the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Marcus Mosher, crushing it every day with Landon McCool. And next to him is my co-host in season for the Cowboys postcasts, former Cowboys coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, guys, the Cowboys concluding their mandatory minicamp today. They'll take a little break before training camp, but Marcus, you and Landon, again, have been all over it. I loved the headline from yesterday. George Pickens dominates. What have some of the highlights been from this week?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is all basically T-shirts and shorts. So let's not get too excited about what happens in minicamp. There's no tackling. There's no being physical with these receivers. So they should look really good. Like it's more of an issue if we come out of these mini camps thinking that a receiver is struggling. That's when I get concerned. But some of the notes that we're hearing out of mini camp is that Dak and George Pickens have already had a strong connection. He's moving all around the formation. And actually, George Pickens on Wednesday was talking about how he's going to be, learning different spots in this offense because CeeDee Lamb plays all over. It's just that George Pickens is already starting to pick up this offense. He's making some ridiculous catches in these practices. I don't want to overstate how unimportant these practices are, but the fact that George Pickens is playing well, he's having fun, and it seems like he's locked in, that should be great news for Cowboy fans.
Yeah, what I like is moving him around. I mean, when you can get comfortable with the receiver that soon into your offense, being able to run those motions, being able to run shifts, being able to do things that can cause the defense just a little indecision in what they want to do. Now you start moving the tight ends. You start changing the strength of the formation. And then if you can create just a little doubt in those situations, it's perfect. Here's the problem when you start doing a lot of that offensively, because I'm an offensive guy, is we could sit here all day and the last guy with the chalk, he's going to win. So if you and I go to the board and I'm the last one that holds the chalk, guess what? I'm getting a hat on a hat. I'm blocking you and we're getting there. So that's what you're trying to do offensively is you need to be the last guy that has the chalk. And if your guys are smart enough to where you're always in the position, I mean, think of playing tic-tac-toe. The first guy that gets the mark, and the last guy, now all of a sudden the game favors you. And that's the way offensive football is in trying to out-leverage defenses and trying to get mismatches on defenses. Here's the flip side of that. If you have one or two players who think the Kentucky Derby's a hat, and all of a sudden now they make a mental mistake, now you're not as confident as an offensive guy calling that. So let's make this real clear here. This is also about the coaching staff and them having confidence in their players in knowing that in a critical situation, you can make a call like that. You can run a shift. You can make a motion. You can call multiple shifts or motions if you can get out of the huddle quick enough. Now, that is something to me that creates you having the opportunity to have the chalk last.
And I would just say for the Cowboys in general, they kind of need this passing game to be elite if they're going to want to get to the playoffs, because They've got a very young offensive line. We'll see what the run game looks like in year one under Brian Schottenheimer. I still have major questions about the run defense. The cornerback room has injuries galore. DeMarvion Overshown, your best linebacker, he's probably not coming back till Thanksgiving at the earliest. So you need this passing game to be firing on all cylinders right out of the gate if you want to, stay afloat, be above 500 until you get till, the middle part of the season. The connection with Dak and George Pickens is going to be a very important one. They can't really afford to have a 2-month growing period. Well, we're still trying to figure each other out. That's why these reps are so important in mini camps and OTAs, because they're playing Philadelphia Eagles in week 1. Pickens is going to need to have a big game if the Cowboys want to keep up in that one.
Yeah, Jeff, I know you keep up with this. How far are we into the show?
5 minutes and 50 seconds.
And let me mention it. The quarterback makes all the money. Guess what it is on him? It's on him. I mean, we can sit here and say this a lot of different ways. We can sit here and polish this and mold this a lot of different ways. You got your money, buddy. It's on you. It's your offense. Go get it to be as efficient as it can and get it rolling.
And the good thing is now they have the talent, right? Like, I think that was the issue at times last year when you were rolling out Jalen Tolbert as the number 2 receiver. Luke Schoonmaker was stepping up at tight end when Jake Ferguson was out. Now you have the weapons to go be a high-level passing attack, because now with George Pickens, you have the number 2 receiver, and everybody else drops down a run. Jalen Tolbert's your wide receiver 3. You feel good about that. Mingo, who you traded for in midseason, he's competing for wide receiver 4 snaps. So you're not wrong, Coach. Like, Dak has all the weapons now. Now it's up to him and the receivers to get on the right page and start the season off hot. We saw last year this offense kind of struggled out of the gate a little bit. That can't be the case again this year.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, you cannot stumble right here. And so I believe that if you take a look at how this coaching staff is implementing already an offense to put shifts in motions with a guy who's been there, 6 weeks, hey, that they recognize that as well, right?
I agree.
Yeah, and speaking of George Pickens, along those lines, Coach, he had a good quote. He said, talking about the Cowboys' offensive creativity, he said, a lot of motions, a lot of things that give you an indicator of what the defense is doing before you say hike. A lot of coaches don't do that. So Pickens, apparently, he's all in. I mean, he is on board with the offense and what they're doing and what his role is.
Yeah, I mean, he comes from an offense that didn't allow their quarterbacks to audible or change plays at the line of scrimmage. That was very static, that did not do a lot of shifts and motions. And if you look at like George Pickens, where he ran all of his routes, they're all as an X receiver, split out way outside. This probably is a culture shock for him. He's coming from a Stone Age offense where Arthur Smith wants to run, the wishbone, to an offense that, frankly, I mean, I think Dak Prescott would love to throw the ball 50 or 60 times a game. So it's got to be a complete culture shock for him.
Well, and you make the mention. I mean, that's the first thing I think that, and you know this because you live up there, but that's the first thing Arthur Smith did say. Hey, we didn't trade for DK Metcalf and sign Aaron Rodgers to come in here and run the wishbone. I don't know what's wrong with the wishbone, because I'll promise you one thing. I could teach Schoonmaker how to red ass block, and we'd cut the crap out of the Sam, and we'd freaking get up to the strong safety in Podna. We'd pitch it and be 88 and out the gate. Give me the chalk last. I'll run the wishbone on your ass.
Listen, the wishbone's fine. It's just it's a high school offense, Coach. That's all.
I understand. We won a national championship with it, so I get it, buddy. But I promise you one thing. I can teach them how to cut your ass like Borden House Pie, too. Getting me all fired up this morning.
I know. It's all right. It's good. It's a good start to the show. We got Dak already in, and we got Coach fired up. This is amazing.
Yeah, football is in the air. We're getting close, right? It's time to get those pads on. Marcus, what else? What else caught your attention this week?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people are asking about like the offense and defensive line. And Coach, you could talk about this. I don't know how you judge any offensive lineman, how well they look in OTAs and mini camps when they're just more or less standing out there and they're working on their stance. But what you can see is how guys are moving and if they're playing with confidence. And I think Kyrie Elam, the cornerback the Cowboys traded for from Buffalo, he's had a pass breakup in every single OTA and minicamp practice so far. He's playing on the outside. We have to remember he's only 24 years old and he's played a bunch of big games in Buffalo, including multiple AFC championship games. He seems like he's been one of the real winners of the offseason so far. And I think that's a big deal for Dallas because of all their injuries to Trayvon Diggs, Savon Ravel, Kalen Carson, Josh Butler. If Elam can come in and play at an adequate level, maybe he can help you buy some time until some of those other guys get healthy.
Coach, real quick, before you answer. I want to let you answer, but I want to just add to what he said. And I mean this sincerely. I'm not being funny. Can a younger DB that maybe has some issues or struggle, can they, I mean this seriously, can they really improve? Can they get better?
Well, let's yes is the answer. But here's the thing that I'm going to tell you is that every defensive coordinator in the league teaches their defensive backs different things. We can sit here and talk about, okay, we want a stab here. Okay, we want the first inside step there. Okay, we want head placement here. Okay, but if you're heavy and you believe in playing certain coverages, then you're very tuned in to what guys can do, or you can dial guys in a certain way to play a certain coverage. And we were just laughing and cutting it up about the wishbone. But I can tell you right now, on defense, if you think there aren't still a ton of people in the NFL that play Tampa 2 coverage, I mean, that's a coverage. I'm telling you, when I was literally, this is 1987, my first coaching job, and we're watching on an old DVD player. I'm watching Monty Kiffin, who at the time was the defensive coordinator at Nebraska, and he is clinicking guys on how to play Tampa 2, how to get the Mike linebacker to carry number 2 vertical through the middle of the defense. And we're talking 1988. You can say, well, football, it's outdated. It's this. It ain't. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Coach, do you know where the Tampa 2 originally started from?
Monty Kiffin.
Well, yes. Monty took a lot of it from Chuck Noll's defense in the 1975 for the Steelers. Like they ran, it wasn't quite the same, but that was really the first defense that ran that style. And then Tony Dungy and Monty Kiffin kind of changed it a little bit, but it's been all the way back to the mid 70s that we've had this defense. So you're right.
Well, I mean that's correct. But what I'm telling you is literally Monty Kiffin is on the field at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he is talking exactness about how the corner. Now at that time he's in college football, so the numbers are different than they are in the pro game. But he's talking about exact zones that guys have. And he's talking about it exactly to a T. And so, yeah, it's something that guys continue to tweak. It's what guys continue to try to, let's say, they're trying to doki-oke coverages. They're trying to show one coverage, spin and run another. And so I've been around a bunch of guys all the way back to Donnie Henderson. When Donnie Henderson was at Buffalo, Donnie Henderson would bring the corner all the way down. And initially it would look like the corner was lined up on the X receiver. He would then change responsibilities. And I don't like talking heavy X's and O's because it's hard to do on here, but he would then swap responsibilities where the free safety would come down and play the corner because the corner would fly back out of there and play cover 2. And so initially you would think, oh my gosh, they're closing the middle of the field because the free safety's coming down. No, then the corner goes all the way back and plays plays a too high look. So there are all kinds of different leverages and things that guys use. Back to your question, Jeff. Yes, the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And if Kaiir Elam can get a certain technique or understands certain techniques that maybe Eberflus wants guys playing, then all of a sudden he becomes a better looking corner here than he did, in previous stops. So you're asking me, can they get better? They're not going to get any faster. You're not going to take a guy that's 25 years old and running a 4.5, and when he's 28 years old, he's running a 4.4. That's not going to happen. But when you can perfect a certain technique or certain techniques that they're expecting you to run, then you can obviously grow as a professional football player.
All right. Well, speaking of corners, we have a little bit of a Trevon Diggs update. I want to run that by both of you as well. Also, we want to hear from you via the comment crew. Love it when you guys comment and are a part of the show. In fact, Coach, we had one jump in and say, "No way is this all on Dak. This is a team sport, Coach."
I love it.
Yeah. It takes 11 people. But did he take that into consideration when he was taking 60 million of the two? Are you trying to draw me off sides this morning?
Yes.
No, it's working. It's working.
Got that hard count going.
I already heard you use the term hike. I haven't heard that in years. Hike. Okay, hike.
Got to bring it back. It's like wishing older people birthdays. Got to do it. Happy birthday. All right. Quick timeout. When we come back, the latest on Trevon Diggs and more. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Well, you know what time of year it is right now. We got a lot going on in addition to the Cowboys and their mini camp, which wraps up today. The NBA playoffs, the NBA finals are now in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there has never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Now, a couple things you can take a look at, which players are showing up in the biggest moments. That could help you build your next bet, or you can combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds. So if you are new to FanDuel, right now is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. All right, so make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Great to be with you on this Thursday, the final day of Cowboys mandatory minicamp. Didn't hear a ton from Trevon Diggs, but apparently he did give one little comment to Cowboys reporter Calvin Watkins, and Diggs says his goal is to return week 1 against the Eagles, and he apparently feels like he's early, not behind, and he's doing the work, and that's about it for now for him. But what are your initial thoughts, and what did you make of that?
Yeah, I'll just say that players are notorious for always being optimistic about when they're going to get back on the field. I mean, we've heard this a million different times in the league. So I admire Trevon Diggs saying that his goal is to be ready for week 1. My guess here is that the Cowboys will put him on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, to start the season, which means he misses the first 4 games of the season. And probably what they're hoping is that he's healthy going into week 1. And then he uses that first month of the season to get his conditioning right, because there's a difference between being healthy and being in football shape. And I've got to believe it's going to take Diggs some time to do that. So I would, if you're a Cowboy fan, I would not be counting on Trayvon Diggs being ready week 1 when they play Philadelphia. But I think a better goal is early October. I think week 5, they play the Jets on October 5th. I think if you can get him back during that week or, shortly after, I think that's a big win. This is a big injury that he's coming back from. And I remember when Todd Archer from ESPN reported about the injury back in the offseason, or back in like January, February, they thought there was a chance that he could miss, the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season. So getting him back in October would be a major victory for Dallas.
Yeah, I'm much, man. I know, obviously guys are doing their jobs and trying to, just get players. I'm much more inclined to say, Britt Brown, when is he going to be back? That's the Cowboys trainer who we talked about him Monday on the show. Give me what he thinks. Give me his take on when it's going to be, because I'm like Marcus. I mean, my gut feeling is we're looking at a lot of band work at training camp off to the side for Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is rush him back on the field for week 1 or 2. Like, yes, those games are important, and every game is important. But do you know what's more important? Having Trayvon Diggs on the field for the second half of the year. And when he's on the field, having him play at the level that we saw in 2021 and 2022. Because if they're getting a compromised Trayvon Diggs at playing up 70% health, 75% health, that doesn't help anybody. So make sure when he's on the field, he's ready to go. He's in conditioned. He's ready. I think it's going to be closer to October, but I admire Diggs at least having the goal of, hey, I want to try to be ready for week 1, and we'll see where we go from there.
And quite frankly, that dictates what kind of coverages that Eberflus will call, because guess what? If he doesn't have certain confidence that guys can do certain things, I mean, players control the game. I know we talk all the time about coaches and firing coaches, and at the end of the day, the players play the game. And so they're the ones that really dictate what you can and can't do as far as being comfortable calling, certain things. So I think it's this will all, it's all going to start in training camp. It's going to give us a lot to talk about. And that's what makes us have an opportunity to get on here. We'll just keep talking about it.
I did not see a quote, but apparently Trayvon Diggs pushed back on the notion, the intimation that that not working or not being in proper shape led to the injury to begin with. Bottom line is, though, whatever the reality is, it sounds like, though, the injury has been a wake-up call for him, and he realizes that he needs to kind of take it to another level if he wants to be, an elite corner and play at that level.
Let's just talk about the facts. 2021, he was an all-pro player. He had double-digit interceptions. He was awesome. 2022, the interceptions went down, but I actually think he was more consistent. But since then, he played 2 games in 2023 before tearing his ACL. And last year, he missed some time with an injury. It wasn't quite the same. So it's been several years now since he's been a good player. And these corners, they just don't last that long in the NFL. We say Jalen Ramsey's been traded multiple times now. He's going to have a new team. Jair Alexander's 28 years old. He's got an injury history. And the Packers are eating $17 million to get rid of him. This is kind of a massive year for Trayvon Diggs. If he's unable to stay healthy or he doesn't play well, I got to believe the Cowboys are going to move on in 2026. And now you're bouncing around the league. You might not get another big contract. So if Diggs can play well, if he can stay on the field when he gets back, it really could change the trajectory of his career, because I don't think we got to a really high point in 2022, and now it's been all down since then.
And he knows that too. Why do you think
Yep.
why do you think he's putting that date out there? I'll be ready week 1. He knows that. He's fully aware that, well, if I can't get it done here, there's going to be some, it could be the end of playing. I mean, nobody outruns father time in the NFL. Nobody. I looked the other day at Trent Williams saying he wants to play into his 40s. That's great. But for a guy who has a collision every single play at 37 years old, well, your body turns in a hurry. Anyway, some guys can recover, and we talked about this too. I mean, think about Adrian Peterson and how fast he could recover from all the injuries that he had. I mean, everybody's built differently. So, I mean, I like that he's saying week 1, but I certainly agree with Marcus. He knows where he's at, and he knows what his body can or can't do.
Well, the other thing I want to mention really quickly before we move on is he's also has to know that Deron Bland, who had an all-pro season in 2023, he's healthy right now and he's playing. He's going to be up for a contract at the end of this year. If Diggs doesn't stay healthy, he doesn't play well, there's a good chance the Cowboys are just going to cut Diggs and give Deron Bland that money. So not only is he competing with himself to get back on the field, he's also competing with his teammate because, Stretch, there's no way this team is going to pay 2 corners $20+ million a year. They're going to make a decision this offseason. Which corner do we want to pay? Is it Deron Bland, who has been on the field, who's gotten a lot of turnovers, who set the pick 6 record? Or is it Trayvon Diggs, who has had multiple season-ending injuries, who is a little bit of a weird guy off the field sometimes? All this to say, Diggs has to get back and play at a high level. I don't think the Cowboys are going to rush him because they do want to make sure they get 10 to 12 really good games from him. But it's important that he does get healthy soon.
100%, I agree with that. And you're not going to, when you say you're not paying those guys that kind of money, because guess what? They're not that good of players. They're not, it just doesn't make any sense with the math. Again, don't get me going on the salary cap and the money and all that. That's for somebody else to figure out.
Well, it'd be easier to pay these guys if you weren't paying a $60 million quarterback, right, Coach?
You see what I mean? I got it. There it was right there. You see, Jeff, you didn't even see that. You're standing there scratching your butt. You didn't see him walk in and go, hut, hut. Oh,
I just wanted to see if I could do it. That's all right.
Well, you mentioned Jair Alexander, and we talked about him on the show on Monday night. Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer was asked about Jair Alexander, and he said, quote, "We monitor everything. I'm not going to get into specifics of what our conversations will be like, but we're always looking." Which
that tells me no.
Nothing. Yeah.
So real quick on Jair, I'll just give my thoughts.
Yeah.
The Cowboys right now, guys that are rehabbing from injury. They've got Trayvon Diggs. They've got Josh Butler coming off a torn ACL. They got Savon Ravel coming off a torn ACL. And they've got Kalen Carson coming off a major shoulder injury. I don't think the Cowboys want to add another cornerback to their roster right now that's not going to practice and not going to play. I think there's other teams out there that would be willing to take a shot on Jair. I don't think it's Dallas.
What I'm going to say is that I do believe they'll make an exploratory call. I mean, I do think somebody probably knows somebody in the building at Green Bay who they would say, "Hey, give me your take on where he's at physically." Just the exploratory call to make sure you're covering all of your personnel markers. But I as far as being anywhere serious, I would say no.
The Packers are paying him $17 million to play elsewhere this year. That kind of tells you what they think of Jair Alexander at this point in his career.
100%. I'd be more inclined to kick the tires a little more on Jalen Ramsey.
I agree.
That's why I'm on here talking to you guys, and I'm not in the league anymore.
I think we need a coach comeback.
I think so. It would be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need some old school, right?
Need someone to teach these young kids about the fullback. Come on.
Yeah. Get the wishbone going. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I promise you, down on the goal line, give me the shot glass, brother. We'll score. You wouldn't be worried about no damn tush push. I can promise you that.
Right. I mean, we had the Wildcat for a little bit. Let's bring the wishbone.
Yeah.
Get that going. All right. Well, let's take our second time out. When we come back, as expected, Micah Parsons has been there, and he was spotted in a deep discussion with Jerry Jones. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, we have some news about the preseason and a whole lot more. Want to get to more of your comments as well via the comment crew. Sweet Zeke says, Stretch gets all worked up. I love it. So there you go.
So do I. Sweet Zeke. That's great.
Me too. I'm with you, Zeke. Absolutely. It is sweet. All right. We're going to keep it going. Thanks for being with us. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. If you haven't thought about it, now is the time to say goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, whether it's Google, Apple, Outlook, more. It makes it really simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy to see place. Now, here's the cool thing. You can eliminate the I didn't know excuse from your family's routine, all right? And you can assign everyone their own color so they can finally solve the one who does what confusion in the house. So it makes it crystal clear, literally, with a nice 15-inch HD screen. So right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcall.com/NFL. Go to skylightcall.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That is Skylight, SKYLIGHTCAL.com/NFL. Skylightcal.com, CAL.NFL.com/NFL. Okay, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, the Cowboys are going to have a joint practice with the Rams on August 5th in Oxnard. The teams are going to meet in the very first preseason game on August 9th, so that'll be good. Coach, just a quick thought from you. Were you a big fan of joint practices? Do they make a difference or not really?
I mean, was I a fan of it? And in theory, it works. It's great. If you have Mike Urban and you have guys who are uber over the top competitive, in the 3 years that we had joint practices with the Raiders, we never made it through one full practice without having to call it off. And I mean, we met with their coaches. We sat down with their coaches. We'd say, okay, here's what we want to do. Okay, here's what they want to do. Okay, you're trying to service one another. And it always broke into something that, I mean, I'm telling you, we never, in my time with the Cowboys, not one time did Michael Irvin take a one-on-one rep versus a Raiders player. It just wouldn't work. And so I like the theory. You need to be able to look at other guys and kind of, it's good to come off the football on other guys, but it is very, very difficult to do. And so am I a fan of it? Well, sure. I mean, I want to be able to practice against other guys and do those things, but it's one of those things where it has to be a very, very controlled scenario.
Yeah, I would also mention the Rams are an interesting pick here for the Cowboys, and I know it has to do with location because of where the Rams are practicing. So there's just not many options. But the Rams, just under Sean McVay, don't play anybody in their preseason games, and I mean
No.
like
No.
anybody who has a chance to be a contributor does not suit up in the preseason game. So that week 1 preseason game against Los Angeles, you're not going to get anything out of it because the guys that are on the field don't deserve to be on the field. And I hate to say that, but that's the case. So having a joint practice with the Rams, I think is a much better way to get good competition against an offense that's pretty unique and against a really good quarterback. However, we see this every year. Like these joint practices, you can only tolerate the other team so much before you get a fight. How much work will get done? I mean, I don't know, but I do like the idea of practicing with the Rams in the joint practice because you're just not going to get much from the preseason contest.
All right. Well, I wanted to throw that out there just to give us a little meat to chew on as we get closer to training camp. As we predicted, expected, speculated, Micah Parsons at mandatory minicamp apparently had a deep discussion, according to reports, with Jerry Jones, and Parsons gave a positive update on their contract talk. So just, again, more hurry up and wait, it sounds like.
So, Coach, I wanted to ask you this because Micah said that they didn't talk about the contract in their 30-minute talk. I mean, I kind of don't believe him because there's no way they're just standing out at midfield talking about like, hey, they're the TV shows they're catching up on right now or anything like that, right? So if you had to speculate, let's be reckless. If we had to recklessly speculate what they were talking about, what do you think it was?
I know this. Jerry takes different approaches with different people when he talks about the end game. So, I mean, I could sit here and give you a couple of for instances, but I'm not going to do that right now because I had a couple of really interesting discussions with Mr. Jones on multiple times. And I've seen him since I got let go of the Cowboys in 2002. I've seen him in 3 different occasions. And all 3 times, he absolutely walked away. And this is not saying this in a brash manner. Please don't take it that way. He left his conversation, whatever he was doing. And I mean, he came over and hugged my neck like I was a long lost sibling of some sorts. What I can tell you that Jerry does is he has a very unique way of talking to you about how he sees everything, whether it's a contract, whether it's money, whether it's certain gambles or risks that he took during his life. And what he's doing is he's sharing those things with you in order to kind of get you in line with his thinking. Am I making sense of what I'm saying here? Because you can just say, stretch, you're out of your mind. So I'll give you, for instance, Jerry is a guy who 100% bets on himself. And I don't care what arena you're in. He bets on himself. And so I've heard him say a lot of times, that he was big into Zig Ziglar, who, was one of the original, sales guys that was out there, going over sales techniques and how to get people to, think alike. And so I could see the situation where Jerry is talking to Micah about, hey, betting on yourself without telling him that term, without saying, how about getting yourself in a position here where you can really better your entire situation, whether it's your family situation, whether it's your business dealings, whether it's whatever. And I could see Jerry, giving him an example of how he bet on himself. And I know I've heard the story, him tell it multiple times, of, other guys that were in the oil and gas business taking Christmas Eve off and him working Christmas Eve, and he pushed through a deal that then turned into the opportunity for him to have the ability to leverage $150 million, which he'll tell you was every single thing he had in order to buy the Cowboys. So I can see him taking his life experiences and pulling aside Micah, because if you saw, it was, I think Mr. Jones was talking to Henry Schroka, one of the older Cowboys scouts there, and telling him, hey, get Micah over here for me. And you saw Henry Schroka kind of walk into the drill and pull Micah out of there. And then, you know, him talking to him about just business, about life, about what he's done and his experiences in order to kind of get him to plug in and maybe understand the upside of what he can do. And so he's very much Jerry's very much a teacher. And if you can get him in the right scenario, you know, he'll try to mold you a little bit. And he's a pump you up kind of guy. I mean, I've heard people criticize him a lot, saying, well, he wants to coach the team. He doesn't want to coach the team. He just wants to be able to share his life experiences with other people. And you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're never going to hear me. I don't care if we do this show, one more show or 1,000 more shows. You'll never hear me be critical of Mr. Jones because of how I think he handles it and how he handled me. And all I have to go on is my point of reference. That's long enough for me today. I'm going to check out, guys. See you later.
No, you're good.
Great answer. Great answer. Love it.
I'm sure part of it is he's just talking about not contract stuff, but big picture stuff. Like, hey, Micah, this is our goal for you. This is the goal for the franchise. This is how we're trying to get there. And this is what we need from you to do it. And I don't think it's a coincidence, Stretch, that we saw Micah not practice on Tuesday. He was there, didn't practice. And then on Wednesday, Micah's not supposed to be practicing. And then all of a sudden, he's jumping in these drills and he's teaching up the young guys, right? He's in a contract dispute. Trey Hendrickson and TJ Watt are not at minicamp at all. Those guys are going to get fined $100,000. And yet, Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer have kind of talked Micah into being there. And I think, again, I don't think it's a coincidence that we saw Micah participating in drills a day after talking to Jerry Jones. So I think all of this kind of stuff is leading towards this deal eventually getting done. When is the exact date? I don't know, but it's going to get done. And Cowboy fans, you don't have to stress about it.
Yeah. I mean, he grabbed his helmet and jumped right in the one-on-one pass drill yesterday. So that, I mean, I'm with you. He's doing that because, number one, I think the guy's a good teammate. I do think that when you and you know whoever was responding earlier on the line that you were talking about, Jeff. I mean, it's a team sport. It's about being a teammate. It's about giving back, and I think he understands that. And I think that Micah probably did take some of the things that Mr. Jones had told him, and he inserted them right into that thinking. And You're not gonna convince me that this deal is not 95% done. We're just talking about the minutia of crossing a T and dotting the I and signing, putting the ink to the paper and signing this deal.
And I have to believe part of that conversation is Jerry Jones and Micah both acting in good faith here. Like, hey, we know the deal's not done, but you and I both know it's going to get done. Can you at least just show up and be here for your teammates? Coach them up. You don't have to practice. You don't have to do any of that stuff, but make sure you're here at practice. And then, lo and behold, Mike is there, and he can't help himself. I just compared to like the CeeDee Lamb situation last year where CeeDee was in the exact same situation. CeeDee Lamb didn't participate in minicamp, and nobody killed him for it. Mike is just handling it a different way, and I think it's because Jerry Jones and Micah have a very good relationship, and I think you're starting to see that play out on the field.
All right. Good stuff. Very, very good insight. Thank you, Coach, for that. When we come back, our final segment, have a couple of more comments I want to run by both of you, and also another Cowboys player that's kind of betting and hoping on himself. We'll get into that as well. It's been a great show. Great to be with you on this Thursday. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher, Glenn Stretch Smith. Great to be with you. Cowboys wrapping up their mandatory mini camp today. As always, we want you to be part of the show. We want to hear from you via the comment crew. Guys, quick question from Dr. Ed, not Mr. Ed, Dr. Ed. Will our defense stop the Eagles and give our offense a chance? Who is going to stop Barkley and Hurts? Who is covering Smith and Brown or the tight end?
Probably not, but it's week 1, so I wouldn't get too upset about it. Philadelphia is a well-oiled machine on offense. They're bringing back 10 of their 11 starters. The Cowboys have a new defensive scheme. They're going to be starting several new defensive players, likely 2 new outside cornerbacks. They probably won't stop them, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to stop them the second time they play them.
I like that point. That was going to be my point. It doesn't mean they won't stop. They get to play them twice. So are they going to stop them? I mean, I think you might. The question, I believe, needs to be, can you get 1 or 2 critical stops? And then let's flip the side of that. The other side of the ball is getting a lot of money, fellas. Don't score with them.
How much again is the quarterback getting? I don't remember. How much is the quarterback getting?
I got selective amnesia.
Well, speaking of tight ends, the Cowboys tight end, one of them anyway, Jake Ferguson has some big goals this season. He wants to win, stay healthy, and get in the end zone. Jake, talking to the media, said, quote, "I don't think I've ever played a full season and not score a touchdown. That was something I came into this offseason really working on, just really dialed in on that and making sure I was lights out." So he is motivated. And we've talked about it a little bit, and we'll talk more about it during training camp. But I think that tight end battle is kind of under the radar, but I think is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously it's a good goal for Ferguson. Stay healthy, win, and score some touchdowns. If you can do all 3 of those, you'd be fine. But I think for the first time in Ferguson's career, he's in a real battle here. I would expect Ferguson to open week 1 as the starting tight end because he's the most experienced guy in the roster, and the quarterback trusts him. So that means a lot. However, Brevin Spann-Ford, their undrafted free agent tight end that they signed last year, he played a lot in the second half of last year, even when Jake Ferguson was healthy. And now he's getting even more reps in the one-on-one period. He's getting more opportunities. He's the best blocking tight end on this roster. And if Ferguson can't prove to be a weapon in the passing game, I wouldn't be surprised if we see his snaps cut. And if he's seeing a big decrease in snaps this year, maybe that production doesn't get a whole lot better from what we saw last year.
I always go back to this, is that, excuse me, the quarterback is very comfortable with him. And I'm saying so comfortable with him that he was okay allowing Schultz to get out of the building. I mean, because they had to go to him and say, look, on these inside routes, before we let this guy go to Houston, are we good with the level that we think that Ferguson can get to? And so there is a confidence level with the quarterback and this tight end. And I certainly hope he stays healthy, not so much for catching touchdowns, but for keeping the chains moving. That's why Jason Witten was so good at being able to be at the right place at the right time, being on the same page. If you have an option route where you can go in or out, and knowing that he was always there. So I just think there's a comfort level that I don't want to discount here.
Yeah, and we should mention this is a brand new run game, and maybe one of the ways that you help out the run game is by some more shorter passes, layup targets is what we like to call them in the fantasy football world. And I think Ferguson's really good on that. If you need to run, a rollout or whatever, just to get Ferguson the ball in his hands so you can get 4 or 5 yards, so you stay ahead of the chains. And then on 3rd and 2, you give him a little, a Y option, and he gets open for 6 yards. That's where I think Ferguson has a big leg up on the rest of the tight ends in the roster. I think for the most part, Dak and Ferguson see things very similar. They see coverages the same, and that's why he's been able to be pretty successful. But the Ferguson we saw last year just did not look very explosive. And I know he got hurt in week 1, but he never really got back to that player that we saw in 2023. This is a big year for Ferguson. He's going into a contract year. I think he wants to be paid like one of the top 10, top 12 tight ends in the league. He's going to have to score some touchdowns if he wants to get that kind of money as well. So I appreciate what he's saying. He's just going to really need to earn it this year. It's not going to be given to him like it was in previous years.
I mean, they do talk a lot about span forward. The guy I'm interested to see is, number one, can he stay healthy? But I know he's uber athletic, is Stevens. I mean, he is a big physical guy that can run. And you talk about a guy who can get through the middle. We talked about Tampa 2 earlier. I mean, who can get through the middle of a defense. John Stevens can get through the middle. So if he can stay healthy, that's another guy and another option for him to see, if they want to play a lot of 12 personnel, or if they want to get in a position where, down on short yardage and goal line situations, even putting 3 tight ends in the game.
Well, and that's the part of the roster construction that I want to see. Do they keep 4 tight ends on this roster? Or because they've got more depth at receiver, do they go, deeper at receiver? Do they keep, Mingo and Jalen Brooks, who has been on the roster for the last 2 years? Do they keep a Paris Campbell or Ryan Flournoy? I think it's a lot going to depend on John Stevens. If Stevens can stay healthy and perform the way that he has previously in camp, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the roster over some of those other bigger name receivers.
I mean, that's a good point. And can he, if he is just almost as fast as those guys, I don't know how fast Flournoy is. I don't know how fast Campbell is. I mean, I really don't. But if he can be the guy to get through the middle with his size, absolutely, I could see him doing that.
Let me ask you guys both this. Marcus, you made this remark at the very opening of the show about, okay, hey, these are guys running around in shorts, so let's not get carried away. With that said, in addition to some of the players we've already talked about, Jonathan Mingo, who you mentioned, has received some very positive reviews. Both Dak and backup Joe Milton have apparently looked really good. Does that hold any weight, Coach, when you see the quarterbacks kind of accurate and sharp early in these situations? Does that mean anything, or not yet until they really get going and they put the pads on?
Marcus, is that you or me?
Sure. I mean, your $60 million a year quarterback should be accurate. No TAs and mini camps. Right? I mean, first of all, the fact that Dak is out there participating is already a big win for me. Like the fact that he's healthy in June, that's all I really care about. But it does seem like he's had a pretty good offseason. He's meshing with these receivers. I put some stock into it, at least a little bit. He's not having problems getting down this offense because it's an offense that he's familiar with. But I also don't really care about the passing numbers. Like I know people tweet out the passing numbers, which is ridiculous.
Milton, 10 for 10.
There's no pass rush. The guys aren't allowed to jam the corner or the receivers. There's no linebackers that are getting in. It's just ridiculous. But again, the fact that Dak is out there practicing, he's doing everything, he's making all the throws. That's the most important part here for me.
Yeah, I think it's important that you see throws made in very tight windows. And are they as tight a window as they would be in a real game? No. But if the ball's being delivered and you see guys, he's putting balls on guys' face masks, he's sticking balls in guys' bodies on inside routes, all those things are good. And making the right read and delivering the football where it needs to be delivered. I mean, I think that's a good thing. Am I going to sit here and get all shot in the rear end about it? Probably not. But I am going to tell you that if you're asking me today, do I feel better about the backup quarterback situation with the Cowboys today than I did a year ago today? I am. Yeah. I am saying yes. I think they've upgraded there at that position, and that's what you're wanting to see. You're wanting to take a look and say, man, are we better off at this position than we were a year ago? And you want to do that across the board. And I think there are a lot of, we've already talked about Kyer Elam. That's an upgrade from where they were a year ago. We're talking about Milton. That's an upgrade from where they were a year ago. We're talking about Stevens. If he can stay healthy, is an upgrade. So you want to keep those things moving in the right direction when you're talking about the guys that are down the line guys, because we know they're only one injury away from having to be the guy. And I don't like the thought of having to play anybody except Dak right now to give you a chance, because you got 17 games in front of you. But hopefully all of those guys are getting better and you're making better decisions at turning over the bottom of your roster.
And the last thing here, Jeff, on Mingo, who you asked about. I hate to be a Debbie Downer when it comes to mini camps and OTA stuff, but he's a 6'2", 220-pound receiver that runs in the low 4.4s. He better look good in shorts and t-shirts. Like, honestly, I think that's the bigger thing. If he's out there struggling and he's not looking like the best athlete on the field, that's what I would get concerned. I will say for Mingo, he had a rough year last year from going from the Panthers, who had an awful quarterback situation in the first half of the year. He gets traded to Dallas, and Dak Prescott's now out for the year. Now he's playing with Cooper Rush, who does not throw a particularly strong deep ball. He plays with Trey Lance in week 18. So I don't really have any expectations for Mingo, but I'm not necessarily counting him out either, just because last year was such a strange year for him. But the thing for Mingo is, where does he fit into this roster? Because he's not going to be one of the top 3 receivers. He might not even be the number 4 receiver, because Kevontae Turpin is going to have a role in this offense. Can you find a spot as the number 5 receiver to come in and contribute, whether that's as a blocker, whether it's as a deep threat? Can you do anything on special teams to make sure that you get a hat on game day? I think Mingo is a guy that I can't wait to watch in training camp, because I think we're going to learn a lot about him.
All right. Final few minutes here. Coach, I want to ask you this. So today is the final day of mini camp, and then there's a little break before training camp starts. So what's this this little hiatus like? I'm sure from the coaches, do they take a little break, or are they just now we're getting ready for the season? And for the players, is this kind of like one last hurrah to get a trip in before the season starts? You kind of back off a little bit, or do you want to keep the momentum going from everything that happened here during camp?
Yeah, the coaches will step away from it a little bit. From a player standpoint, you should have already probably, if you were going to take that European vacation, you probably should have already done that, because now it's nothing more than maybe a 3-day weekend off. This is where the strength coaches have to really pick their game up and really get these guys tuned in and ready to go to camp. This is where you've got the training staff. They're dialing it up and getting guys ready to go. So it should be more along the lines of, now it's on the players. Now it's getting yourself to where you're in the best shape you can be. The coaches will step away from it a little bit, and I'm sure, they'll come back and work just before they head out to Oxnard. So this is a time where coaches are stepping away. Players better be getting it tuned up.
Last thing, Coach, before we go, is this the time of the year where you're always dreading getting a phone call in the middle of the night because one of your players got in trouble or got hurt? Because you're not going to see them for the next 6 weeks or so. It's got to be kind of a scary time before you get into camp.
Well, and I'm sure that'll be Schottenheimer's one of the things that he'll be telling guys. Make sure you're looking out after one another. Make sure if you're out somewhere with one of your teammates, you're doing something, he gets a few frescas in him. Make sure he gets home. Make sure you're taking care of one another. I mean, these are grown men now. Are you going to enter that into their mind? Yeah. And then, it is an alarming situation when the phone rings and it's 2:45 in the morning. Yeah. It of course that's tough to be in, but hopefully, from a character standpoint, you just hope you got better characters than what you had happen, last week when you had the trifecta of Pac-Man and let's see,
Calvin
Hardy
Joseph,
and
yeah.
Joseph all spending them a night in the Crowbar Hilton.
Yeah, best piece of advice I ever got is nothing good happens after midnight. So try to be in bed early. Like you'll save yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah, amen. All right, guys. Well, a couple of things. Number one, we'll get back after it on Monday night. Final day of Cowboys mini camp is today. So, Marcus, you and Landon will be all over that with your final thoughts, and we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to be talking more about mini camps. We'll also be talking about some players we haven't heard a lot from this offseason and whether or not we should be worried. So make sure you guys tune in for that.
All right, that is the Daily Locked On Cowboys podcast with Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool. The coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, to both of you, Marcus and Stretch, happy Father's Day. Hope you get to enjoy Sunday. Appreciate working with you. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and participating. And again, have a great weekend. We will be back with you on Monday night. Final day of Cowboys mandatory minicamp today. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.